Are you doing the warm-up dance back there?
Yes.
If y'all are really freezing, we have a coffee machine back there that like I have like literally just to hold because it's so cold in here.
As long as I don't touch the table.
Oh,
That's-
I know, I touched it. Can we see our breath?
It's a test.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we on, Bernard? Hello, everybody, welcome, and I hope you can stay warm during this session. So, thank y'all for being here. We're here, it's February 21st, 2024, and I think this is the first session. I'll go over the, just the little status update as where we are. Just to start things off, we had discussed on the tentative agreement for Article 23, the term of the agreement, some corrections that needed to be made to the draft tentative agreement I had presented. We went ahead and corrected that and emailed it to you that Friday afternoon. And so what we have done is we've taken that agreement, or the corrected tentative agreement, printed it in green, and we have signed it, and we're going to present it to y'all for signature today. And I'll pass that over when we're done with this session. Okay. Get my little presentation. Okay, so this is just a quick status update, just to kind of keep us all on track, make sure I'm not missing something. We've already had 3 prior sessions, which have been very productive, in January and 2 in February. Today we're here on session 4, which is February 21st, and we have 2 additional proposed sessions that we so far have scheduled on February 28th and March 1st. So that's 2 sessions next week. On the last session, we arrived at tentative agreements on Article 1, the preamble, Article 2, definitions, Article 5, union dues check off, and Article 23, term of agreement. The city had also presented Article 8. There were some questions raised, and we're still getting the information requested. And so we're continuing to have those meetings, and because of availability, we probably won't have that until the information until next week. I believe we prefaced that the last time that we were here. So we're still working on 8, and we'll continue to do so. The city's proposals for today that we will be presenting are Article 12 promotions in a response to the Article 13 hiring that the union presented last time. We don't know necessarily that the union actually has proposals, but we do anticipate there may be some possible responses to Article 12 and to Article 13. And the overview for today is we have this session this morning. We'll be presenting Articles 12 and 13, and we anticipate that we'll be working throughout the day in caucus and possibly other sessions this afternoon on back and forth on Article 12 and 13. Anything else? Anything else that I've missed?
I think y'all had maybe said that y'all would have Article 6 as a drafter to present.
We are working on it. Whether or not we'll have it today, I don't know.
And I think, we looked at your draft, and I think just by adding our stuff and kind of changing a few things, we probably, depending on how long this session takes, would like to actually present a counter draft just with our issues included. And I like that we're kind of continuing to call it drafts, because they really are, because so much can kind of change. And so even before lunch, I think we would be ready to provide a counter, including in all of the, including both Article 12, and we put Article 12 and 13 in one document, because while the 13 that we've seen from y'all, like outside of some questions we have, would be acceptable, but only if some of the things happen in Article 12. So we really can't separate them at this point for us.
You're right, and we've kept them as separate proposals just for a tentative agreement and to keep them organized, but you're right, and that's why we're dealing with both 12 and 13 today, because when we're looking at Article 13, there were a lot of things we had to deal with in Article 12 that would affect 13, so So we have had that same, we have that same concept and idea, and that's what we have been doing, and that's why we believe that presenting them together makes sense, because they kind of intertwine almost in certain aspects. So what we have done is we have been working diligently on this Article 12 and 13. We had sent a draft on just the concepts and the ideas that we were working on. We have some very, very slight changes that we will go over. I'll try to highlight them. They're not huge, but I'll go over, and if I can remember to see exactly where they are, I'll identify it. And I'll go ahead and start off with presenting Article 12. Initially, I thought, okay, we'll respond to Article 13, but when I was looking at Article 13, there was some questions raised that need to be answered in Article 12, so that's why I went ahead and, that's why we decided to go ahead and present this first. Oops. See if I can make this work. Okay. So this is actually a third screen, so I have to look at up here to look at it. Okay, so Article 12 promotions. This is our, and I just want to let you know that although this is a proposal, we do, we're stating that this is in draft form. There are going to be some concepts that I'm going to be talking about that we, for both Article 12 and 13, that we kind of want to discuss what were the ideas and the intent behind it, and we're still working on the language and figuring out how to get that into the contract. So on Article 12 promotions, Part A, Field Division, promotions to Commander Field. For eligibility, we added a sentence that addresses the captains, people who will be placed in a captain position pursuant to the
Move your cursor while you're talking about that so that the.
pursuant to the transition of the OCMO office into the EMS department. And in discussions, we heard what you had said previously, and so we've added the sentence, for captains who were appointed pursuant to Article 26 of this amended agreement, meaning that the chief is going to have to drop them in pursuant to initial appointment. The examination shall be open to them if they have continuously held that classification in the department for at least 2 years, meaning they have to, once they're appointed, they have to be within the EMS department for 2 years before the examination, and if they have 6 years continuous service with the entire city. So those are the two prongs. You have to be with the city for 6 years, but you have to be within 2 years of the department. That way you have that experience in order to be able to promote. And then we added here just amended, maybe that's that placeholder language again. In terms of seniority, we just added this clarification that each candidate shall be entitled to a maximum of 10 seniority points equivalent to 1 point per year of continuous service with the city prior to the date of the examination. So the continuous service is just with the city in its entirety, not just with the department. And then that's the same kind of language that we have inserted on Part B, Communications Division. The promotion of Commander Communications for the eligibility is the exact same language. For those captains who were appointed under pursuant to the Article 26 of the OCMO transition, they would have to be in the EMS department for 2 years and have 6 years of continuous service with the city to be eligible to promote. Again, the same thing with seniority. We just clarified that it would be continuous service with the city. On Part C, General Provisions. Appointments, we have added an additional appointment of a division chief. That is to address the division chief that will be appointed into the new position from the OCMO transition. So we just add one more there.
Can I ask a question real fast?
Sure.
So right now at this time, my understanding is that we have 9 division chiefs and 6 of them have gone through the appointment process and 3 of them have gone through the promotion process.
Okay.
And maybe y'all can ask Chief Gardner if any of what I'm saying is incorrect. But so with the addition of another division chief, expanding it to 10 total, the department would be able to appoint that spot because they still have 3 available appointments. I just want to clarify that we all agree that that's true.
Yeah, because we bargained to expand from 6 appointments to 9 appointments last time. Now, so there is already eligibility.
Right, so
for-
we are not looking to fill one of the current vacancies. We're actually looking to add an additional FTE to that level.
Right.
So that would be a Article 26 drop, as we call it, and then raise that total to 10. That's what we're looking to do.
Would that
Right.
then be?
Regardless of the current vacancies.
Would that then be an appointed or promoted position when it becomes vacant?
It would be a total number of 10, so it doesn't matter which division chief would next become vacant, it would be part
Right.
of the 10.
So-
So it's not, right now, we're adding it because at the time, we're adding an FTE
Right.
at the same time. But upon vacancy of any of them, that would be considered one of the 10.
But just to clarify, if we had left it at 9, and y'all had still added an FTE, the department would still be able to appoint that position because they haven't maxed out their appointments.
Yes.
Okay,
We hear you.
okay.
So it's, but, because the question is if we leave that 10 in there, then y'all now have 10 appointments.
Yes.
And only, as opposed to just the 9 before, which you already have the ability to appoint.
That's
That newly created division chief, which we did contemplate during the last bargaining session. And so the question is why a new solely appointed ability on the side of the city?
Right, well, we did contemplate it and then uncontemplated and moved everything to this time frame. So we are still asking for the same thing.
Okay.
So that's the only change on that section. Then we have added a new section called promotion. And this, again, I highlighted this because this is draft language. Promotion by appointment for the chief paramedic practitioner and paramedic practitioners. So these are the two, just going back to make sure, these are the two new ranks that will be brought in from ACMO, one being the chief paramedic practitioner and one being the paramedic practitioner. These will have already been, and this is going to be addressed by the Articles 26 catch-all. As we discussed, the chief would have already appointed, so there's not going to be any vacancy at the time that we sign this amendment to the agreement. But this is to contemplate future vacancies when those positions open up. And for the chief paramedic practitioner, the language that we were working on, and the concept is upon vacancy, the position in the classification of chief paramedic practitioner shall be filled by use of the appointment process. I'll discuss that in a minute. The chief may remove without cause a person appointed to the chief paramedic practitioner from the chief paramedic practitioner position. If at the end of this agreement there's no successor agreement, this appointment provision will continue to remain in effect for a period of 10 years. So the chief paramedic practitioner is contemplated, and from the city's position, it's going to be an appointed position by the chief. There's several reasons for that. One being they have to have the NP and or the nurse practitioner or the physician's assistant's license. They have to have, certain criteria that the chief is going to establish. The appointment process, we're still in discussions about that, but that will be at the discretion of the chief, but we're contemplating, we're trying to envision what would a vacancy look like, what are the potential people that could be considered for that vacancy. And we have several categories that we've identified. Current paramedic practitioners, paramedics or other people within ranks who may have the license but are not in that particular position, people who may have separated separated from the department in order to go obtain a PA or an NP in an attempt to potentially qualify for those positions in the future. And then in Article, Article 13, then we have the direct hire, right? So this promotional appointment, this is the first process that we're looking at for people who are already employed with the department. One of the things that the concept that we're trying to figure out and trying to deal with is, okay, we have the people who are currently in the department, have positions in the department, and how do we make sure that people who are in the department separated for the purpose of obtaining more licenses, such as the NP or the PA, where do they fit in this? Because would they fit in the direct hire? Would they fit? Is there something that we can contemplate in terms of the promotional process or that kind of appointment? So those are kind of the things that we're trying to work through and figure out. The other thing is, of course, we know that the pool, not everybody's going to have an NP or a PA. It's going to be a narrow, limited kind of scope, but we want to make sure that we have available candidates in order for the chief to consider and to set the criteria and be able to choose from that pool. And then we added, if there's no successor agreement, the appointment provision will continue to remain in effect for 10 years, is because if you look at 143, there's not necessarily a provision that would address paramedic practitioners or nurse practitioners. We wanted to make sure that there was something in place should this contract somehow get out of contract or there be a lag in between effective contracts, that we still maintain the ability to, whatever we wind up negotiating, the ability to appoint for those positions and have those vacancies filled. So that's kind of the reason for that. And that's for the chief paramedic practitioner. Then we also have for the paramedic practitioner, the city's position is also that those positions will also be by appointment. We have mirrored the appointment process that has been outlined and agreed upon for the division chiefs already. It's number one, the announcement of the vacancy. Number two, minimum qualifications is determined by the chief for such position. Number three, opportunity for qualified uniformed staff to submit a letter of interest. And number four, consideration of any qualified uniformed staff submitting a letter of interest prior to the external posting of such vacancy. That means that's saying this has to be, all of this under Article 12 has to be complied with before we even move to direct hire. Such consideration shall in no way obligate the chief to appoint any such uniformed staff member submitting a letter of interest. That still means that he has the ability to consider and evaluate the qualifications and the criteria for that position. A person appointed under the paramedic practitioner position shall have all rights and remedies afforded under the Texas Local Government Code, sections 143.014G and H as applicable. G talks about if they're taken out of that position, the criteria here is going to be, number one, the qualification is that they have to have a paramedic license, as we have been discussing in our proposals, that potentially if they held a rank beforehand, that potentially they would be able to go back there pursuant to the statute if it applies, if they held a rank before. And then H also provides appellate remedies for removal. If at the end of the agreement there's no successor agreement, the appointment provision will continue to remain in effect for a period of 10 years. Again, that is to just address and allow the department to be able to fill those vacancies in case if there's a lapse in the effectiveness or a lapse at the end of the agreement.
So go up a little bit. Step there. I just want to be clear, can you move that cursor a little bit? Sorry. I just want to be clear. When she says this mirrors the division chief, it doesn't mirror the division chief at all. It mirrors the concept of having the 1, 2, 3, 4 as to having it specified in the contract as to what would be provided in the appointment process ahead of time by the chief, so that it's very clear, what is there is a vacancy, I'm announcing it, then the minimum qualifications as determined, The difference here is the person could submit a letter of interest if they're qualified and are with the department. I don't think there's a lot more right now, but as Roxy said, this is for future vacancies. What we don't have figured out, and what she explained a lot more in the top one, which is also applicable here, when you go down a little bit and you talk about, well, how do you get demoted if you never had if you're a direct hire, never had a position with the city before? We don't quite have that fit in here. We want to make sure that we don't make somebody who wants to go away and go to school and who resigns and is later reappointed, we don't necessarily, well, where do they fit into the process? Are they equal to somebody currently with the department, or someone who's already reinstated, somebody who's through PA school but doing their clinical late? All of that is really nuanced. So we want to work with you on how exactly to craft this. So we don't want you to think that this whole concept is like, oh, we know there's issues on all of these. So we want to just put it out there. This was kind of our first stab at it. That's not true. This was about our 8th stab at it. And, but still knowing, there's more. So we just wanted to make it clear that there's a lot of, we're open to a lot of concepts here. We don't want to discourage people from leaving the department to get education, or to stay with the department to get education, or to reappoint or not. We want to talk that through with you guys.
Yeah, and I think the only question that I really have is that for the chief paramedic, I have 2 questions. For the chief paramedic practitioners, y'all don't have the announcement of the vacancy, minimum qualifications, and I think that's probably just, y'all are still really workshopping that, but I'm sure y'all are open to those concepts in the paramedic practitioner chief area as well, just that they announce it, that they have letters of interest, or, have a process.
We actually have discussed, and we are open to that. We hadn't quite figured out the difference
The
in the
language,
two,
sure.
how that would.
Sure.
I don't think it would be quite as, yes, we're open to that. Let's just put it that way.
And the other question is, I noticed that y'all are just calling it paramedic practitioner, chief paramedic practitioner. I guess, our division chiefs aren't in either of the divisions. And so is that, can y'all explain how that would work ordinance-wise? Because we had kind of done a placeholder of paramedic practitioner clinical, and so I didn't know if that is intentionally left off, or if y'all had a different envisioning. I'm just trying to.
No,
It is not.
Let me respond to that. In the other one, we've changed it clinical to clinical services, so we
Okay.
agree with that. We could put that here. There's nothing that says we can't in the ordinance, which is completely separate. That would be under clinical services.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that y'all hadn't changed your conception of what the org structure would look like. Okay. I think that's all the questions we have in those 2 areas.
We changed, the letters changed, of course, because of the additions of the 2 above. On preemption, instead of up to 9 division chief positions, we replaced that language with the positions specified in this section, and that is to address not only the division chiefs, but the paramedic practitioner and the chief paramedic practitioner as well. So we have this highlighted on section 16. We do have some proposed changes, but we have it highlighted specifically because of the concept that we've been talking about. What do we do, and how do we address the people who are leaving to obtain a better license, more licensure, like a PA or an NP, in order to be able to qualify for these paramedic practitioner positions. On reappointment, we added this language to address that happening and being able to be reappointed. 2 years, we just clarified years, spelled it out over here. Or if the uniformed staff member was actively pursuing through a formal educational process as determined solely by the chief, furtherance of their medical credentials to a nurse practitioner or physician's assistant. then the uniformed staff member may apply for reappointment within 3 years after the effective date of the resignation of the EMS department. So that's for reappointment, but it is this very concept and issue that we would like to also address in the appointment section on the paramedic practitioner and the chief paramedic practitioner.
Well, and that we may need to also look at the demotion, the other section in there that we don't have in here. What is that section called?
I'll stop.
You know what,
Yeah. It's like the reinstatement kind of thing.
the crossover, promotion, demotion, the whole concept, there are parts in there that may be affected by this as well, that we don't have in here, so we
Yeah.
need to kind of take a look at that at the same time.
And so, just to understand, when y'all are talking about this, because this whole section is pretty tricky. Hold on. I'm having a different disagreement that I want to clarify before. Okay, so this whole section only allows anybody who is reappointed to come in as a clinical specialist. So it wouldn't allow anybody to be reappointed as a paramedic practitioner. We're okay with that because we have the direct hire process. And if we want to make something about if you had left the department, had been pursuing all the prerequisites for your paramedic prac, or your prerequisites to be a paramedic practitioner, I think we're open to the idea of maybe it gives you certain tenure and other things that you had previously, if that makes sense. But for this language, the only way that folks can use this is if, let's say they're going through nurse practitioner school and they fail out or something, but they were trying to do that for our department, they could come back as a clinical specialist only. Because if you look further down in article, or in section M, it basically, it only allows folks to come in either as a medic or a clinical specialist.
Right.
And so that, for us, this is like a, oops, you tried, it didn't work out, you can come back and be reappointed as a clinical specialist. And we think that it would better fit if y'all wanted to help folks retain the tenure and rights and everything through the direct hire process.
Okay, so, go ahead.
There's another issue that we were also thinking about in this whole concept is that, as we know currently, the paramedic practitioner positions, the number is very small, and it's going to be limited. So the vacancies aren't going to be available all the time. That is not to say that there's going to be people in the rank that want to separate in order to go get the NP and PA license and come back in order to later potentially see, okay, I think a vacancy's coming up. I want to be in the department already. So I think that that covers that aspect. We want our medics and our employees, if they want to get further educated, we're all for that. Go for it. Come back under the reappointment and get back in there, and then maybe sit
then you
there
can be
while
waiting.
you're
Yeah.
and then at that point, they qualify not for the direct hire, but they will now come into the first part
And be able
of
to
the
be appointed.
promotional appointments.
Yeah.
And be considered. So that's kind of what we envisioned in putting this in here, knowing that, yeah, they're gonna have to come back at the same rank. The issue becomes, how do we address somebody who has left for the very purpose of trying to qualify for our very own position in the paramedic practitioner, and whether they get some sort of bump or something in between the people who are already here, or do we keep them on the same, or do we treat them as equals prior to the direct hire, or do we just put them in the direct hire? And that's the conversations that we're having and trying to figure out, so. Anything else?
Well, yeah, because it does put them at a disadvantage if we have prioritized current uniformed staff. And so you may not have an answer to that, but be thinking about that, because we are open to the conversation. We're not, and the chief is not just like laying down the law. We want promotional opportunities, but we don't want to exclude somebody who's left for that specific reason to be able to be promoted either, so.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. I think we just have a hard, or I personally have a hard time imagining somebody who just went through PA school, has been working, and the other thing is, not only do you have to go to PA school and nurse practitioner, you also have to have 2 years working in the hospital. So, working in the hospital, making so much money, and then coming back as like a year 2 clinical specialist, waiting, it doesn't really seem realistic, but I don't think it hurts anybody, and it might help some people. The other thing that I haven't talked to my team about, but if that is y'all's intention, I'm going to talk to my team about potentially thinking about, for those folks, having a 5 years, because it's 3 years for school, 2 years. So, and we did talk about the idea that it's not just advancing their formal education, it's more attempting to fulfill the prerequisites of the paramedic practitioner position, because maybe they're working and in school virtually for 2 years, and then they, take off for the last year to do clinicals, and then they do their 2 years in the hospital. But then that 3 years in total wouldn't qualify them because only one of it was pursuing school. So we kind of adjusted that. I don't think y'all would have any issues with any of that.
I don't think so either. We actually were talking about the clinical time
Yeah.
just this morning, like the 3 years might not be,
Yeah.
So that's,
I think, one of our other major solutions is to allow folks to stay employed and send folks to PA and MP school, and we will have language to help that. And so I think that's another reason why we don't necessarily think this is gonna, I think it's too much of a risk for us to realistically think that folks are gonna leave this department, go get school, do 2 years, and then come back and for all that to work out, So, to us, having an internal, otherwise we wouldn't have a paramedic school. We would just hope that people leave, get their paramedic school, and then come back. And we just know that it was important enough to put the paramedic school internally. And so we'll present language, hopefully before lunch, that shows y'all what we've already come up with as far as school goes. Y'all have already seen it last time. It's changed some based on the ACMO merger, but for the most part, it looks very similar.
and I think we are anticipating that,
Yeah.
definitely. You'd mentioned that at our last public session as well.
Yeah.
So we look forward to taking a look.
Yeah, and we just hope that that's the more normal channel that folks take, but understand that not everybody will be given the opportunity to go to PA school. We can't send, 500 people, so there might be some people that want to pursue it outside. So.
I had one question, just going back about seniority points. When it was, and I know that we changed the clarification with the city because we had discussed how the ACMO folks would be credited for their time with the city also. But could that be, I know there was, when we had looked at it, there was a couple of people with questions as to, could it be with any city department or?
As it's currently drafted, yes.
Yeah, okay.
If you're looking to restrict it to just those appointed under Article 26, we would consider that as well.
Yeah, we're just kind of contemplating
Yeah,
and thinking about that, of just
we
like.
were too.
What if somebody from water is like, I want in?
Yeah, as currently written, it would be.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And I think those were all the changes that we have proposed and the concepts that we wanted to talk about on Article 12, our draft promotions article.
And has any of this changed since what y'all sent me yesterday? Because I just want to, because we, took the one that you sent yesterday and are working off of that. So if there are any other changes since what y'all sent yesterday, then I would
I
want
will
to.
Not in
email
12.
you, say that? I don't think there are
Not in
any.
12,
Okay.
the only change is the highlights.
Okay.
In 13, there are.
Yeah, and what I'll do is, as soon as we get done here, I will send you a fresh copy so that we all know these are the ones that were presented at the table.
Okay.
Okay, and you can work off of that. Yeah, it was just the highlights on this one. So now we're going to Article 13, which is, trying to find where. My monitors are not logically set up, so I have to figure out how to get it over there. Okay. Article 13, hiring process, and this is our attempt at our draft response to the initial proposal that the union has placed on the table. We're in agreement that there's no changes to Part A and Part B. We've just added on Part C, Section 1, the amendment, little placeholder language to show that when you're looking at the contract, you'll have a note that section was amended. Here, this is the same discussion. We still, the city still sees it, the structure with the paramedic practitioner and the chief paramedic practitioner being under clinical services. I think they're gonna call it clinical services, so when we go throughout the contract, that's what we envision that being called. Seeing as how on Article 12, we had the positions for chief paramedic practitioner and the paramedic practitioner be appointed, we propose that they both need to be addressed in this section, so we just included them all at once. And so we've added to the language that you have proposed, just the chief paramedic practitioner clinical services, and then we changed this to license, a Texas license as a physician's assistant or nurse practitioner. And that is for the ability to direct hire for these particular positions. On Section 3, again, we added the amended May 1st, 2024 placeholder language. On Section A, again, we clarified that it was called, the division is called clinical services, and we also added the chief paramedic practitioner to this section on selection and placement. This is where the chief establishes the criteria and procedures for the direct hiring process. And to your proposal, we've added a little bit more language. For the paramedic practitioner, again, the clinical services, and we added the chief paramedic practitioner. After the announcement that a vacancy exists, and we added, and after complying with Article 12, Part C, Section 1B, which is the promotional appointments that we just went over for both the chief paramedic practitioner and the paramedic practitioner of this amended agreement, applicants who meet the selection criteria may be hired under this direct hiring process, subject to the chief's sole discretion. That is to mean that it's the chief's consideration on the criteria that he sets, and he's able to make those appointments pursuant to his evaluation of the candidates.
And we need to keep in mind on this, on the Part C, Section 1B, that if we add, like the list of 4 to the higher one, we need to change that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just talking out loud as I see that, to not forget it.
So we just, it's just clarifying language is what we added, and then address the, made reference to the Article 12 appointments for those positions. On Section 6, we added the amended language here. And we went through and added to your language was the beginning pay rate for each paramedic practitioner clinical services. We added services hired through the direct hiring process shall be that of the base year paramedic practitioner clinical services, and we added with the exception that should such employee have 2 or more years of paramedic communications, paramedic practitioner, nurse practitioner, or there should be a comma there, or physician's assistant's experience, the chief shall have discretion to place such employee at a pay rate of a year 2, step 30 paramedic practitioner. That is to allow for competitiveness in attracting people to the position, and it gives the discretion to the chief to be able to do that. And this is the same kind of concept that we have used in the items that we have already agreed to on the clinical specialist. Where? You want me to go up?
No, I wanted to point something out. If this is one change that we made from the one we sent you last night that I want you to notice. After year 2, step 30 paramedic practitioner, in the one we sent you last night, it said or above. meaning the chief could place it anywhere, whereas in the section above it didn't have that, so that's been corrected.
Right, we took that out, we corrected that. This is also the same language that we use for clinical specialists. If so placed, the employee shall not receive commensurate seniority for any purposes under this agreement. And again, this is for direct hire, this is for hiring outside of the department. Then we added section E, the beginning pay rate for each chief paramedic practitioner, clinical services hired through the direct hiring process shall be as determined at the discretion of the chief. And those are all the changes that we had. So the only changes on this Article 12 was again the taking out or above from the section D, and then we clarified that it's clinical services, and those are the only changes on that from the draft that we had initially sent you. But I will again send a fresh copy after this. Are there any questions here?
Okay, anything else?
I don't think so. So I don't know if y'all want to incorporate into the document now, if you want to give a different one and then have it incorporated.
I think we already have a draft that incorporates both.
Okay, so just the
Um,
corrections that we made on the.
Yeah. Y'all might need to adjust those because we're just going off the one from.
It's
do that.
close. It's
Yeah.
close.
But let me talk to my team, and I don't know what time y'all plan to go to lunch, but we might be able to, depending on that time, our lunch is already here, so we can wait, we're flexible.
We're
But
flexible as well.
okay. So let me just go talk to my team, and I'll text you and potentially even be able to come back in like 30 minutes or 20 minutes even.
Okay.
Okay.
Just let us know.
Okay.
Oh, and here are the
Perfect.
Oh, here's the
TAs.
TAs. I'm gonna email those to you before I leave, just so you have them for records. I know you already have it.
I appreciate it.
Because I will forget.
Hope y'all's room isn't as
Is this on? How do I?
Who's Betsy's third grade projector again?
I know.
We were just looking and working till the bitter end, so I haven't sent it to y'all, but I will.
Okay. There it goes.
All right, so we really do appreciate the working collaboration on this, and we also just want to put out there again that this is all drafts, so I think neither one is like formal. Just knowing that so much, every time we dig into it, it feels like an onion, like we learn more. So this is where we currently stand, that we appreciate y'all's language. We think that folks should be in the captain position for 4 years, and the reason why is just to make up for the mandatory 2 years as clinical specialist and then the 2 years as captain to then promote to commander. We're just thinking about some folks who would be able to, effectively promote to commander much faster than other folks who have been in the department much longer. So, but we left in the 6 years and agree with the idea that the years with the city count. So that 4 years just catches up, 2 years as captain, 2 years as CS. For seniority, we removed the with the city. We think that given that they will have to have 4 years in the immediately serving in that position, will give them enough tenure points. And we just don't think that this is an area where we need to give them the extra bump.
So by deleting that, then, is your intent to go back to current practice, which
Yeah.
is with the department?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm presuming. I just want to
You make sure.
make it clear.
We did the same thing for comm, and we also just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page, that, from our understanding, all the folks that are coming over from ACMO will likely come over into the field division, but we wanted to leave this in here just in case somebody came in the field division as a field captain and then wanted to transfer into comm, and then we would want that to apply to them as well. So this is just consistent with the fields. So we did 4 years and with the city. Or we took out with the city. I hope y'all will be very pleased to see that we have left in your 10. I hope that we have also clarified for y'all why we think that this is a really big give, because we think that in our mind, as it stands right now, the chief has the ability to promote up to 3 more division chiefs. So if y'all added in a division chief from ACMO, he would absolutely be able to appoint that. Even if the Article 26 person left, he would still be able to appoint that. So we consider this a big give, in that really now you have 4 appointed positions, because if any 4 division chiefs, if we give y'all this 10, any 4 division chiefs were to promote or to demote or to separate or to retire, that you right now have the opportunity to appoint 4 positions. We did add in this language because it's appointment. We can't say that they have to have so many years necessarily. So we added in this language that just says that if the chief appoints from the rank of commander, it needs to be somebody who had also promoted from captain to commander under Article 12. So that basically means that either the person has to have 2 years as a commander, so for our Article 26 folks, they have to serve at least 2 years as a commander, or it needs to be somebody who went through the promotion process. We were just thinking about the case that, May 2nd, there's a division chief opening, and the chief promotes somebody from ACMO, an additional person. We want that to be reserved for the field. That's who it was meant for, or communications. That's who it was meant for, so we just want to make sure that it's reserved for them. and I'm just gonna go, so just stop me at any time if y'all have questions. And I know this is the first time you're seeing it also, so, you know, it's hard to generate questions.
I do just have a question on that additional promotion, the promoted to captain to commander under Article 12. How does that affect the people who weren't, how does that affect the people who weren't transferred into OGMO? Does it create more requirements for the promotion?
No.
Okay.
So, and we had that conversation, so let's say that somebody just promoted to commander and the chief wanted to appoint that person. We do have somebody who had less than 2 years as a commander who was appointed to division chief. This says that either they had to have been promoted from captain to commander or have 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what this 4 is doing there. So we removed this section, we moved it further down, so you'll just see us move this. This is the overtime for division chiefs. So I think, you know, we're all really thinking very intentionally about the language that we're using, and I think we recognize that originally in our language even, we have promotion by appointment for chief paramedic practitioner. But in this case, if we add in paramedic practitioners, then it's not actually going to be a promotion, it's going to be a transfer, because they'll be transferring from the field or comm division into the clinical services division. So it wouldn't be a promotion, it'd be a transfer. So we just decided to take out those 2 words, and it just says appointment for chief paramedic practitioner and paramedic practitioners, just to be a little bit more specific. And we still firmly believe that, you know, in our Article 13, we only allow direct hire for paramedic practitioner position, not the chief paramedic practitioner position. To us, it really doesn't make sense to have somebody not coming from the paramedic practitioners. I mean, you can talk to the folks that are there. I think it's very important to have somebody who is supervising them also come from the position itself. And obviously, and I'm going to talk about 2 and then make some other comments, but we also firmly believe that, you know, the whole reason why, one of the reasons why we want paramedic practitioners in the bargaining unit and also as a position in this department is for advancement for our folks. And so if they don't have that opportunity, it kind of feels like, what's the point? And so, and 2, you'll see that we say upon vacancy, position in the classification of paramedic practitioner, the process will be the same for the clinical specialist under Part B, Section 4, but also shall require the specific prerequisites of paramedic practitioner. So the reason why we say this is because we believe that it should have a civil service test, but we don't necessarily think it needs to have the assessment center, because the assessment center really helps make decisions about who should be training folks, should be making decisions about who should be commanding other folks. And so we're fine with just a civil service test itself, a written test, and having that be available. And so basically anybody in the, and also have the same specific prerequisites for that of paramedic practitioner. So obviously, you know, me as a captain couldn't apply to this transfer position without having my PA or NP and whatever other requirements that they have in place. We want to note that we believe that if we were to leave it up to your language, we hope we recognize, or that you recognize what you're asking of us, which is the 10th division chief position, which we think that at this time, chief could promote. He could, even if he added 3 division chiefs right now, he could promote all 3 of those. And so this really does feel like a big gimme for y'all. And then y'all are also asking for, on top of that, the complete appointment of chief paramedic practitioner and paramedic practitioner. And so effectively, that's actually 6 positions that you're asking for. And so we're open to giving you the 10th division chief, and we're open to giving you the chief paramedic practitioner, but we do want the paramedic practitioners primarily to come from within the department, recognizing that if we don't have that, we are still open to the direct hire. So that was a lot.
So,
No,
on-
so the last, just on the last part, you said, so if there's no one who meets the qualifications from within that, you're just saying, if they do meet the qualifications, then they test, and then he promotes from within. If there's nobody there, then we go over to the other side on the direct hire. But if we've got like 5 people here, or 1 person, well, there's the weird one.
Yeah, and if
Personification, but-
they don't pass the test, you know what I mean?
so,
Okay.
yeah, that was my question. So then, number 2 essentially creates an eligibility list.
Correct.
And then the eligibility list will have to be exhausted before you move to the direct hire.
Correct.
Okay.
And there are ways for the chief to bypass and do other things as well.
Pursuant to 140, the 143 bypass requirements would
Exactly.
also, okay.
And I think, obviously, there's probably a lot to that, you know, in language, but anyway, that we just wanted to get our intent out there as a start.
Absolutely. We'll just say that these are drafts.
Exactly.
As we've been discussing.
Any questions about that? So we took out all the language that is specific to appointment. We did leave in your language about the successor agreement. We also are really trying to think about all of the possibilities. And so you see this transfer to the field or communications. So basically what we're trying to do is say, let's say that I as a captain go through nurse practitioner, get my 2 years, and then I take the test, and I have been transferred into the paramedic practitioner position. And let's say I just really hate it, and I want to go back into the field. I should be able to go back into the field if and only if a vacancy exists and the eligibility list is exhausted. So that's what we're trying to get at here. And obviously for CS, that would be very possible because we often have CS vacancies. It would be very possible for medics because we also have medic vacancies. Very difficult to think of that happening in the captain and commander level because we almost always have a list. There are only usually like a few months every 2 years where we don't have a list. So for a vacancy to occur and also for there not to be a list would be pretty rare in the captain and commander position, but we at least want, you know, if somebody who does go into the paramedic prac role, if they want to come back, they could try to time it well and get that position back.
So does this include or not include somebody who didn't come from there, who has dropped in as a paramedic practitioner? if
language
they
for
want
that.
to? Okay, just not here, okay.
Yeah, it's not here, yeah.
No, that's okay.
Oh, it is here.
Yeah.
So if a vacancy exists at the clinical specialist rank, direct hire paramedic practitioners are eligible to transfer to that position.
Okay,
So if they weren't unranked, and this also goes for.
okay, I'm sorry, I see
Yeah,
that.
and this would also apply to the Article 6 folks, 26 folks as well. So let's say one of our current paramedic pracs wants to move into the field, they could come in as a CS.
So the second paragraph, if that one would apply to the Article 26 folks?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did have a thought about, we actually have somebody from, who is one of our paramedic pracs who did come from the field, but he technically separated, so it wouldn't qualify to him, but, you know, we kind of would be open to it, you know, but he came in as a captain, so it'd be kind of hard to find that vacancy. Any other questions about that section? So here's where we move the overtime section. So I've been teeing us up and explaining that we feel like right now as it is, what y'all are asking for is 6 appointments. And, you know, we're open to giving 2 of them. But what we think is really important is that at this point, given that we are doing this restructure, that we unify the department under the overtime and also the pay scales. The only folks that are on a different pay scale are the division chiefs. When we move the paramedic pracs and the chief paramedic pracs, we just want everybody to be on a 42-hour pay scale. And so we put that division chiefs, paramedic pracs chief shall be assigned to a 42-hour work week and compensated at an overtime rate of 1 and 1/2 times each person's regular rate for all hours worked over 40. We just really don't want there to be any confusion about who qualifies for that overtime, because what we're thinking about is the paramedic practitioner chief. I have a personal concern that the city will try to say that this is an executive position who doesn't qualify, but the current paramedic practitioner supervisor does pick up shifts, does actually like go out and prescribe medications, and that is 40% of his role. And so when he is taking on that shift work, he should be provided that overtime, just like all the other paramedic practitioners are. And I also want to, just reiterate, we talked about this last year as well, but we still consider the division chiefs to be exempt employees, but many exempt employees are eligible for overtime, just like in the fire department and the police department. Any questions about that section? So then in Article 12, let me see, Part C, Section 2, it might be a Section 3 at this point, I forget. We just want to clarify, the title should just change to include between the field and communications division. Crossover transfers and promotions only talks about transfers between field and comm. And the reason why we never had it to include between the field and comm division, because we didn't have any other divisions, so this just clarifies. If you go, and I didn't put the section in here, but if you look at the language, it all just talks about how folks move between comm and field, so we just thought that that was clarifying. We don't want people to go looking for paramedic prac stuff in this section. So that's just more cleanup. Okay, so reappointment of uniformed staff. We really thought about what y'all said and really agree with y'all on the ideas behind it. And so what we added is that if the uniformed staff member is actively pursuing the prerequisites of paramedic practitioner clinical position, and we left in as determined by the chief, then they can apply for reappointment within 5 years. And we also thought about what you were saying as well about, we don't really want to punish folks for seeking out that education. And so we just elected in here that they can retain their tenure for purposes of pay. So if they left as a CS, did the 5 years, are now eligible to become a paramedic prac, and there's not a position available, but they want to come back in the department, they can come back in without penalty and then transfer into paramedic prac when that position is available.
Is that here?
Yes, so such uniformed
Okay.
staff who are actively pursuing the prerequisites of the paramedic prac shall retain tenure for
Gotcha.
purposes of pay.
Okay. You presume my eyesight's better than it is.
I can also make it bigger.
Oh, those are letters.
And so now we're coming to, and I think, this is more of we just keep unearthing things that we need to change. So this is under Part D, EMTP certification program. Why this part is under there, I have no idea, but it is, so we're going with it. But the continuing education, for some reason, is under EMT paramedic program. Maybe we could add a Part E or something and call it continuing education, but as it is, it's just under there. So we left everything out the same, but we did recognize that we're bringing in the paramedic pracs, and so their CE is not covered underneath the other language. The other language just talks about paramedic and EMT National Registry EMT recertification, and so we just wanted to add in language about Houston, can you move your cursor? We just wanted to add in language that the department would just reimburse paramedic prac chief for continuing education that meets the recertification requirements for physician assistant or nurse practitioner. We initially mirrored y'all's language about providing the CE, but that doesn't really make sense to have like multiple staff providing CE for 5 or 6 people. And so instead we just moved to a reimbursement model. Also, they often go to conferences that are already paid for by the department, and then they also get CE at that time too. So the department already covers a lot of, or ACMO traditionally covered a lot of that cost, and so now the department would just cover a lot of that cost. And so instead of duplicating that by providing additional personnel to do that CE, part of it will be reimbursed through the conferences that they already attend, and then the rest of it through reimbursement. Any questions about that? All right, so this is our this is our take on the advanced degree program. There's a lot to go over, and so basically this mirrors the paramedic program as much as makes sense, but it adds in a bunch of things. So we call it the advanced degree program because we also recognize that the department has interests outside of just folks getting advanced education in their paramedic practitioner and their nurse practitioner, and also really do want master's degree programs. So I know that y'all had sent over to us what positions y'all believe should remain civilian and sworn, and one of those positions does have either as a requirement or as a preference an advanced degree in, data management, public health, those types of things. And so we also know that we're not necessarily going to need to crank out, 10 paramedic or 10 PAs, 10 nurse practitioners every single year. And so we think this gives the department latitude to put people through master's degree program, PhD degree programs that would benefit the department, and the department gets to decide. So that's why we say it is to obtain certification as a physician's assistant, nurse practitioner, master's degree, or doctoral degree. We do narrow it some later on, you'll see. Who is eligible? This is all just, through conversation, things that we kind of decided. I think we're pretty flexible about a lot of this stuff. They have to have 5 years in the department. They have to have their EMTP or ENT-LP if they're seeking the physician's assistant or nurse practitioner, because that's part of the requirement. But for our communication folks who can promote pretty high without their EMTP, we want them to be able to also get those advanced degrees that can help them be better communication commanders, be better division chiefs. We left in the same kind of language that, if you're in the advanced degree program, you can't have a modified credential, you can't have been suspended in the last 6 months. We added this in, so for the paramedic school, they basically take a test and are ranked. I think that because this is so all-encompassing, we did, this is kind of a placeholder, but we put in a committee of 3 department representatives, 3 association representatives, to kind of decide who gets to move forward with the advanced degree program. I think we're pretty flexible about what that looks like. The advanced degree program itself. So we're asking for 10 eligible employees in advanced degree programs per year, and at least 4 PA or nurse practitioners per year. And right now, so that's within the 10. So right now, we generally do about 24 paramedic students. That's been our normal, and so we were just trying to, we obviously don't want to overwhelm the department, but we just cut that in half, and so that's where we landed. So we know that PA school and nurse practitioner school are very, very time encompassing, and so are a lot of these master's degree programs. And so we're trying to figure out a way that, since it's not going to be necessarily in-house, if y'all wanted to have an in-house PA program, then we can have a totally different conversation. But what we're just saying is that there's no way that somebody can be in a PA program and work full-time. We just don't think that that's possible. So what we're saying is that half their hours are counted for school, and then they have to do 1 24-hour shift, or half their work hours. So that's what this is. Participation in the advanced degree program shall be counted as half-time of on-duty hours. We also wanted to narrow the scope a little bit of the advanced degree program, so it's only available for the master's level or doctoral degree plans. obviously PAMP, emergency management, public health, public administration, nursing, safety, public safety management, leadership, epidemiology, we do kind of make it broad again, any other degree related to management, research, or clinical practice of EMS. So we recognize that that might not be all-inclusive, and so, we did open it up a little bit. But we also didn't necessarily want people to waste everybody's time and say they're applying to like an astronomy PhD or something. So for paramedic school, we have a 2-year service requirement. For this, we have a 5-year service requirement, and we put in a prorated. So all of this language is just duplicative from the paramedic school language, except for that it's a 5-year service requirement, and we prorate it right here. So if you only fulfill 4 years in the department, you have to pay 20% back. If you fulfill 3 years, you have to pay back 40%. The rest of this language is all completely duplicated from the paramedic program. Any questions about our first attempt at advanced degree program? It does look, I think, exactly the same as what y'all saw, except for maybe the prorated nature and also the adding in the advanced degrees.
No, I think we'll just need to take a deeper dive.
Yeah,
and look at it.
absolutely. It's a lot.
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, so that gets us into Article 13. So again, we really believe that the chief paramedic practitioner should come from internal. We only have this direct hire because we're not able to have as many people in the department that are qualified. And so, for example, like, we wish we didn't have to have direct hire, but we do because we don't have enough paramedics that can pass the civil service test at a time and have enough paramedics who are eligible, basically, to promote. So that's why we had to put in this direct hire. We believe that, it's very unlikely that we will have 0 paramedic practitioners. Likely, those positions will continue to always be full, and so it doesn't make any sense to us to include the chief paramedic practitioner as a direct hire. That is absolutely possible to be done from the inside. We thank you for your cleanup about removing the Department of State Health Services here and just changing the grammar and everything. So we agree with that. I think we have a little cleanup in different places. And the rest of this language just mirrors our draft of not including chief paramedic practitioner in the direct hire. And again, we accept this language. I guess we could start turning things to green. We didn't even think about doing that, or I didn't think about doing that. But we just removed the chief paramedic practitioner since we don't believe that those should be hired through the direct hire. And that's it. Did you add anything?
I was just thinking about something under, like,
Yeah.
And you're gonna send those?
I will send that,
Maybe you
yeah,
did.
once
I
we
haven't-
get back, yeah.
Okay.
I just need to download it and then, because it's right now in a Google Doc, so. Any questions about these two? And I guess, we plan on just having further conversations about, we have some thoughts about Article 26, so that's what we'll be working on in caucus. I don't know if y'all have anything but I don't think we have anything else to present later. I don't know if y'all have anything that you want to present later or look at.
I don't think so. I think we're gonna need to
It's a
look at
lot,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. We do probably want to go ahead and get some dates.
Oh, yeah.
Though, I don't know if you've had a chance to work with your team at all on dates or not. I can tell you some general dates
Yeah, that would be
to
great.
work from, you think?
I can't get on the group meeting because I'm sharing, so can somebody just write it in?
Yep.
March 4th until 3 PM, March 5th, March 6th, March 8th. And then comes the whole week of South by Southwest, and I'm presuming you guys are all working, so I'm not even going to look at that week. So then 3/19, 3/20, 3/21, 3/22, and that's what we can look at least to start with, see where that goes. If you'd like to know which of those are at PDC versus here, I can tell you if that helps you make a decision.
I personally don't care that much. I don't know if anybody cares.
Hopefully the heat will be back in
It's a little
working order, or it'll be
cold.
warm enough. That's the only thing, is just how cold it is.
Our room is actually fine, so.
Is it really? Can we switch? Yeah, so just take a look at those.
Okay,
Let us
yeah,
know.
we'll get back to you. That's what we can also spend our time doing.
Okay,
So
cool.
it doesn't sound like we have any, we probably won't come back today.
Do we want,
I think that we'll probably most likely caucus the rest of the day. I don't think that we'll have anything to present.
Yeah.
yeah,
What I'm trying to do on Article 26, because as we're going through all of these, there's a lot of little items that we need to catch for Article 26. I'm attempting to put bullet points to just capture the ideas and the concepts, and I ask that you do the same. And maybe we can then kind of put those together to make sure that we address all of the transitional issues.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing right now. I don't have anything set, but I have notes on what we need to include as we're going through all these additional articles.
yeah, why don't you give us 10 minutes to confirm that we don't have anything to come back with, because I do have a list
And,
that's.
Just
in there.
break, what dates are over at the other? Just curious.
The only ones here, that's easier, are March 6th, March 19th, and March 20. So it's easier to do it reverse, but.
And I think, I know that, y'all have way more checks. We just have to check with our one team, but y'all have outside of your team checks that y'all have to do. But I think depending on what next week looks like, we could potentially be ready with an Article 6. We know that it doesn't really include pay scales, but just the rest of the language. But we also see that in conjunction with 12 and 13 as well. And so we might just add it onto this document and,
Yeah, we've been working on that too, but we're not done.
Yeah.
But like I said, give us about 10 minutes before
Sure.
we confirm that we're not
Okay.
going to re-meet. Don't shut us down yet, Bernard, for good. And let me check back with you.
Okay.
And then if we don't, then I'll come and let Bernard know to shut
Okay.
down.
And
Just need to
I have a
confirm.
hard stop at 3:45, but,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
That would be ours.
fair enough.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, did you get that, TA?
I'll walk.
Get 'em out of here.
I did.